A little tight end rankings video for you here as we close in on the final days before the 2025 NFL draft, and a lot of things get shaken up. The tight end position is so tough to hit on, but if you are drafting and you're considering reaching at this position, here are the 5 guys worth doing it for in 2025. We're going to begin with someone who would have been number 1 on this list if we did this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and probably 7 years ago, and that's Travis Kelce. And the main argument that he is stooped down to 5, which is still remarkable out of the 32, right, is there's going to be a sharp drop-off at some point. Just don't exactly know when it is. This guy turns 36 years old in October. Kansas City's run-pass ratio, if we look at that, they threw the ball 62% of the time in 2022. In 2023, it was down to 60. In 2024, it was down to 58.7. So 2 reasons for that dip, right? The age. Not very excited to see that when that dip happens if Travis Kelce's on my roster, but also kind of dialing it back to a more balanced approach. The Chiefs have openly admitted, though, to giving this guy creative freedom. Like, he's got a certain route he could run, but he can also just sit in a pocket in the defense. So he's still a great asset. But if you're able to go after these next 4 guys after Travis Kelce, definitely do it. He's going to give you production, but specifically in Dynasty. If this is year 1 of Dynasty, I'd be a little careful here.
If this is a redraft league, it's definitely a little different because you are right. He is already declining. We're kind of seeing it in front of our eyes right now, but we're playing fantasy football, not building an NFL roster. And so keeping that in mind, with the lack of wide receiver talent yet again in KC this last year, he saw 133 targets, which was good for 3rd best in the league at that position. Over 8 times a game, he's getting the ball thrown to him. I think that there was a little bit of embarrassment about how he performed last year, and he's a stiff competitor. If there's any juice left in those legs, I think we do see one more stellar year from the 2nd best tight end of all time. But moving into a new guy, another guy that's kind of taking that Travis Kelce kind of look at least, number 4, Sam LaPorta. He was the 13th most targeted tight end in football last year. So it didn't feel like he got the volume that you would see from a lot of these guys we're going to talk about later, but he still put up incredible numbers, and that's because from a pure talent perspective, he is one of the best tight ends in football. I think he's honestly immediately following Brock Bowers in that breadth of talking about talent in the league right now. The biggest issue for him is you look around, Detroit has so much talent on that offensive side of the ball. It's just a matter of, will they be able to find enough to make him be a top 3 tight end? They have more of a focus on him this year. Don't be surprised if he can take that jump and be one of the true leaders in this entire league as a pass catcher. But number 4 for me, Corey Sparks, Sam LaPorta.
Yeah, so this is a composite list. Me and Wally kind of put our brains together, and then we just averaged out our top 5s. And I think LaPorta is a remarkable pick here in the top 5. I think he'll be here for a while, but to your point, it's a blessing and a curse. One of my core principles in fantasy is you want good players and good offenses to an extent, because this offense has a lot of different options. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, who had a breakout season, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, elite offensive line, and a quarterback in Jared Goff, and this is where it benefits him, who has been known to spread the ball out and has been looking a lot more confident since he first showed up in Detroit a couple of years ago. Typically, you'd get worried about all of this surrounding talent for a pass catcher, but I do think Sam LaPorta is still going to get his. And because he's a tight end and not a wide receiver, he doesn't need to get his a whole lot. If he can be a 5 reception for 65 yards type of guy, which I think is still very possible. Again, we don't totally know what this offense is going to look like without Ben Johnson this year. I think that will be more than enough. Let's move on to George Kittle. Not quite as old as Travis Kelce. He's only 31. I always think he's older than he is. He just turned 30 last year. So leading receiver this year on a team that dealt with their fair share of injuries this season, 1,100-yard season, and he led a not very impressive passing offense that only had 23 passing touchdowns, took a significant step back from the 2023 season. He led. He had 8 of those receiving touchdowns, and because of that blocking ability he has, that I know you're going to touch on in a little bit here, I think he gets more snaps than your traditional pass-catching tight end.
He does. Dude is genuinely a freak. 4th year now, over 1,000 yards last year, 2nd in the league in touchdowns, and he does all of that while being one of the most physical blockers the position has ever seen. It has and always will be the question of, can he hold up physically? And like Travis Kelce we were talking about earlier, when will we start seeing that fall off? We saw it for Rob Gronkowski right around this time, and they're very similar players, talking about how physical they play the game, especially in that blocking role of theirs. But if he stays healthy, you can lay your head on your pillow at night thanking your lucky stars that George Kittle is on your team.
That's a very
Going to
good
number
point.
two.
Oh, sorry about that.
But go ahead, babe. You go ahead.
I was just going to say I was just talking about how Travis Kelce is a couple years older than him, and he's still producing. I don't know if George Kittle makes it to that age because he does play such a similar style to Gronk. He's way more physical. Kelce's out there. I just said it, right? He sits in a little gap in the defense. So good point. Sorry, we'll have you swing.
No, you're good, buddy. So number two for us, we went Trey McBride. And do we think Trey McBride is the second best tight end in football? No, but he is going to be the second best fantasy guy for you. And why is that? Because he is a target eater. He's always going to be that security blanket as long as Kyler Murray is in the building. My only question for him is last year he only had 2 touchdowns. Is that a lack of red zone targets? Is that a little bit of bad luck? Is that going to be something that we kind of get used to talking about with him? If he throws a few more tutties at it, you could be talking about a guy that is genuinely a league winner, though, Corey. Volume for this guy.
Yeah, volume is king. And say what you will about this Cardinals team not being in the playoffs recently, McBride was the second most targeted tight end in football this year, and that's why he is our number 2 on this list. And to your point, only 2 touchdowns last year, but despite only having 2 touchdowns last year, he was also tight end 2 overall. So glass half empty, hasn't been getting the targets that we want to see in that situation. Glass half full, in spite of that, he was still the number 2 tight end in a standard PPR format. And this guy is the only guy we're going to give the cake to over him, Brock Bowers. I know you're a big Brock Bowers guy for obvious reasons. The little banner in the corner of your camera there. He is our number 1. And I'll give you the floor here in a little bit because I know you're going to have a ton of great stuff to say about him. But along with the talent that Brock Bowers has and the numbers that he put up in what was a remarkable rookie season, a lot of pressure on him too. This was one of the most hyped up tight end prospects, and we know that doesn't always pan out well. Kyle Pitts a few years ago drafted 4th overall, and we're still waiting for him to come alive, right? Jacoby Myers had just over 1,000 yards this past season. Other than that, that's the only time he's ever done that, and that's because they lost Devontae Adams a few weeks in. So target competition, there's not a whole lot of it. And then there's the quarterback, Geno Smith, over the course of the last 3 seasons, is completing passes at a rate of around 68%. Accurate quarterback, team that throws the ball a lot, not much target competition, freak of an athlete.
As Buddy the Elf would say, Corey, I'm in love, and I don't care who knows it. To do what he did last year on an XFL team that the Raiders were, should truly have the one true nation beyond excited for this year. You mentioned Geno Smith. He's such an accurate thrower of the football. Jacoby Myers is going to feast too. I think that these two, it's going to be something to keep an eye on. But Brock Bowers, you talk about a guy that lived up to expectations and more. I remember sitting there as a Raiders fan and a fantasy guy, watching Darren Waller for years with the Raiders and Derek Carr, thinking this might be the most talented tight end that the Raiders have had in their very proud and very long history. And within, I think, 10 games last year, I already thought Brock Bowers was at a different level talking about talent. It's unbelievable what he was. If he's able to keep healthy, you could be talking about a guy that's going to carve out an unbelievable year or a career in general. Talk about in the same division, Travis Kelce being arguably the best pass-catching tight end of all time. I'd still argue Rob Gronkowski is the best tight end ever.
Yeah.
He kind of does it all. I truly think Brock Bowers, if he stays healthy, can be in that breath of where were you when you watched Brock Bowers play football? It's a sight to be seen for especially a fan base that doesn't exactly have a lot to be proud of in the last 20 years. So very excited. Brock Bowers, man, he's going to be a special, special talent.
The beauty of his situation, at least in our opinions, is that he is, and I think he definitely could be, the best tight end in football right now. And he's also the best dynasty tight end in football because he is in his low 20s. He is 1 year under his belt in the NFL. He is only going to get better. He is only going to get more experienced. And the whole purpose of this video was to give you 5 acceptable names if you're going to reach at arguably the most difficult position in fantasy football, tight end. If you're going to reach, it should be one of these guys. I don't know if it is possible to reach for Brock Bowers. You could grab him
No.
end of round 1. And I think it truly is that Travis Kelce, to use a recent example, you see him go 10th overall, and pretty soon you're not going to bat an eye. I think this year you're not going to bat an eye because you know how hard it is to hit at this position, and you know how talented he is.
He's genuinely a guy that he is the speed and hands of a wide receiver while having the physicality and size of a tight end. The Raiders are going to target this guy 150 times a year for the next 10 years, and it might not be enough.
Yeah, it's a dream scenario. So those are your top 5 tight end rankings. With a sprinkle of Dynasty in there, you notice most of the guys in the top echelon of this list. Younger, obviously, Bowers, 5-year upside. Where do you see them in 5 years? So hope you enjoyed that. I'm Cory. That's Wally. This is Armchair Fantasy Football. We will see you in the next video.